sculptures and statues.
Depicting two teens mid-selfie is perhaps the most relevant installation for this generation. Some people are only too happy to pose with the statue and basically celebrate the selfie by bringing on the meta. All the meta. Never mind that aliens and archaeologists from the future will think that this is what we're all about, because, well, it kinda is. As expected, not everyone was thrilled, calling it a monument to narcissism and a waste of taxpayers' money. Not to be put down, city administrators fired back that the statue was donated by a resident. The offending installation in the city square is apparently part of a 10-piece collection that depicts common activities in plazas and parks. If it's any consolation to the angry Sugarland residents, it's really not unique to the city. The Turks, the Taiwanese, and probably the rest of the world are in on the trend too.
Police arrest young man for carving anime face into rock. 4 years ago, the face of an anime character began to slowly appear in a large rock along a river in the city of Awww in Japan. As this is a defacement of public property, police began an investigation. The young man police eventually arrested explained that he'd always enjoyed carving and stonework ever since he was young, and he found the perfect rock along the river. So 4 years ago, he began to carve his masterpiece in the middle of the night when there were no witnesses around. One of the staff responsible for maintaining the river and the surrounding public area said it was a visitor who notified him about the nearly 2-meter-tall carving. Police began investigating in February and eventually arrested the young man, who is currently in custody. The young man readily admitted to being the artist behind the carving, calling it his masterpiece. But we think that word is a bit generous.
In America, you're allowed to worship however you want, so says the Constitution. Be that as it may, there's a special place in America called the Bible Belt where everyone calls himself a Christian. The shiny buckle in that belt is Oklahoma, and that's where our story takes place. You see, in theory, all of America should employ a separation of church and state. But Oklahoma kinda bend the rules by letting some folks set up a monument featuring the 10 Commandments on the grounds of the state capitol, which is distinctly non-secular. In response, the ACLU is suing the state to take it down. Anyhow, some Satanists in New York heard about this, and they also figured that having only the commandments up wasn't really fair. So they submitted plans to erect a 7-foot-tall statue that looks like this, you know, to keep things even-steven. The design will offer a comfy place where people of all ages may sit on the lap of Satan for inspiration and contemplation. So they say. The Satanic group plans to offer the statue to Oklahoma as a donation, and to pay for its making, they're crowdsourcing online. With only 11 days to go, they're almost at their goal. The folks in Oklahoma aren't too impressed with the devilish idea, and at the moment they've refused to consider any new requests to put up monuments until the state works out if it's really wrong to have the 10 Commandments up. So, dear viewers, what do you think? Can the good Lord and the fallen angel find peace together, or should the state just take it all down? Let us know.
Europe gets its first underwater museum. A museum featuring more than 300 sculptures opened to the public this week, 14 meters beneath the sea. The Museo Atlántico Underwater Museum is located off the south coast of Lanzarote in Spain's Canary Islands. The museum is the first of its kind in Europe. The 2,500 square meter site is best explored by scuba diving around it. But if you don't want to strap on a wetsuit and oxygen tank, then it can also be viewed through a glass-bottom boat. The permanent sculptures are the work of British artist Jason Taylor. All the sculptures have been made with high-density pH-neutral concrete and no corrosive metals. That's so the artworks don't damage the marine ecosystem and will encourage life to prosper in the area, which is a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. Some of the works carry a political message, such as this piece depicting migrants crossing the Mediterranean Sea. The artist said it was a tribute to migrants who succeeded, but also to those whose dreams and hopes remain at the bottom of the sea. Taylor said he hoped the museum would foster a better understanding of the marine environment and how much we depend on it. His first underwater exhibition was in Grenada in the Caribbean more than a decade ago. In 2009, Taylor followed that up with an installation at the Cancun Underwater Museum of Art in Mexico. In 2014, this 60-ton sculpture by Taylor became the largest ever installed underwater when it made its debut in Nassau in the Bahamas. Taylor spent the past 2 years living in Lanzarote, creating artworks for the museum, and started dropping sculptures onto the seabed about a year ago. Wonder if fish like art.
Statue of Jesus kills instead of saves. In a bizarre twist of fate, this man, 21-year-old Marco Guzmani, was crushed by a statue of Christ the Redeemer in northern Italy after it suddenly snapped and fell on him. The The statue itself sits in the Italian Alps near Sivo. It was built in honor of Pope John Paul II, who is due to be canonized this Sunday. The organization maintaining the statue said they carried out maintenance work last year and are shocked that this happened. Unlucky Guzmani ironically lived on a street named in honor of Pope John XIII. Obviously, some are seeing this as a bad omen for the canonization ceremony. However, the more logical pundits are questioning the original design of the statue.
1,000-year-old monk found inside Buddha statue. In the first discovery of its kind, researchers in Amsterdam have found a mummified Chinese monk inside an ancient statue of Buddha. The nearly 1,000-year-old Chinese Buddha statue was on display in the Drents Museum in Amsterdam. In September, the statue was moved to the Meander Medical Center for a CT scan and endoscopic testing. The CT scan revealed the remains of a mummified monk sitting in the same position as the external statue. The monk has since been identified as Master Liu Chuan, who was part of the Chinese meditation school in the 11th century. Researchers used an endoscope to examine the mummy's thoracic and abdominal cavities. They also found scraps of paper containing Chinese characters where Master Liu Chuan's organs had been. The artifact, which is currently visiting Hungary, is the first Chinese mummy available for testing in the West, and it will be on display in Budapest until May.
Guy who made awesome Ronaldo bust made another one. The sculptor who made the now infamous Cristiano Ronaldo bust for the airport in Madeira has taken another kick at it. Thanks to the help of Bleacher Report, Emmanuel Santos, the 41-year-old artist behind the bronze, was given a do-over. In a documentary released by BR, Santos describes how awesome it was being trolled by the whole world after the first bust was unveiled. Despite the harsh criticism, Santos still stands by his original work. But when put up to the challenge of taking another crack at it, he accepted and blasted this one in for a score. Although we still think the first one had way more character and personality, more so than the real Ronaldo for sure.
Please do not touch the exhibits. An easy enough rule to follow, but seemingly too tough for one American tourist who knocked the finger off a 600-year-old Italian statue at a museum in Florence. Patrick Broderick, a 55-year-old emergency surgeon from Connecticut, his wife and kids were strolling through the northern city's Museum of the Works of the Cathedral when one statue caught his eye. The curious doctor raised his hand to the 14th century Virgin Mary to compare hand sizes, and in that instant amputated her right pinky. Furious museum staff fingered the man to police, who promptly arrested him in front of his wife and children. As one can tell from the metal pin jutting from the stump, the finger had previously been repaired after an earlier mishap and was probably already fragile to begin with. Do you think it's fair he was arrested?
How the art of the selfie is destroying the art. Selfies, the lifeblood of any millennial's existence. Popularized recently by Pope Francis and President Obama, they've been around since the Kennedys. Okay, that last one was a fake. But earlier this week, some jackass broke into the Academy of Fine Arts in Italy and climbed on top of the Barberini faun to snap one off. Well, he snapped one all right. Too bad it was the left leg of the statue, also known as the Drunken Satyr. A satyr, which is essentially a sculpture of a half-man, half-goat, and drunken is when you, well, you know. The original was sculpted in the 2nd or 3rd century BC, but luckily, this was just a recreation from the 19th century, the original's in Munich, Germany. Staff at the Academy discovered the broken statue Tuesday morning and are reviewing security cameras that were able to get that picture the unnamed student was looking for.
Italy covers up naked statues for Iranian president's visit. Some statues inside Italy's Capitoline museums in Rome, including a Venus dating back to the 2nd century BC, have been covered up under Prime Minister Renzi's government to avoid offending Iranian President Hassan Rouhani during his visit. The reason? They were naked. Why does Italy all of a sudden care about the sensitivities of the Iranian president? According to Rouhani himself, Italians are very welcoming and they try to do the most to put their guests at ease. And that might be true. Italians do have the reputation of being a welcoming and warm group of people. But we suspect the whole thing has much more to do with the $18.4 billion worth of business deals Italy wants to sign off with Iran than with respect and hospitality. Needless to say, this has incited the ire of many in Italy, with politicians from the left and right saying that not only did Prime Minister Matteo Renzi not mention Iran's human rights abuses, but he has also surrendered Italy's cultural identity. Senator Maurizio Gaspari of Forza Italia expressed his indignation by saying it was a gesture of cultural prostitution and that a political burqa should be put on the people who decided this political cultural slaughter. Another politician, Giorgia Meloni, wondered what Renzi will do for the arrival of the Emir of Qatar. Cover up the whole San Peter Basilica with a huge box? Adding that the only thing Italy should cover up is not its statues, it's Renzi's shameless face. According to Reuters, at Iran's request, Italy also kept wine off the menu at a ceremonial dinner. What other form of grotesque submission should Italians expect in the name of economic interests and trade?
Nagata police on Friday announced they had arrested 2 men in their 20s for stealing 9 Kshitigaba statues from shrines in Kobe and Hyogo and selling them at pawn shops. Police said they would send the case to the public prosecutor's office. Shuhei Iwamoto, one of the alleged thieves, told police he had stolen 7 statues and sold them at a pawn shop for 3,000 yen, $30 each, in early October. Residents are said to have posted notices at the shrines saying that Kshitigaba was away on business and adding that he would return soon. Local residents believe the statues have been keeping a long-term watch over the recovery and reconstruction efforts following the Kobe earthquake in 1995. Iwamoto was also busted for robbing a beef bowl soup shop of 80,000 yen, $800, in late October. During questioning, police said Iwamoto admitted to the theft of 7 Kshitigaba statues and informed on his friend, who had stolen 2 statues after hearing from Iwamoto how he'd got cash for them. Following his arrest, the 9 missing statues were reportedly returned to their respective shrines.